tell from my accent. I've been in Australia for the last 6 years, and but I grew up on Portsmouth on the south coast of the UK, so everyone's been to England. Portsmouth's a naval town, right at the bottom, and it's the complete opposite to the Gold Coast, so where we've actually got sand on the beaches here. In Portsmouth, it's just covered in pebbles and homeless people, so, that's not a joke either. My background, so I lived in a pretty good home. Like my mum and dad did well for us. We lived in London initially. That's where I was born. I've got an older sister. Her name's Claire, and then I had a brother. He unfortunately passed away when I was 1. He had Down syndrome and leukemia. So I'm a big advocate for those two causes, and then another one which I'll touch on in a second. But it was actually a blessing, really. He was 5 when he passed. My mum and dad decided not to continue on the chemo because it was a real, it was just not nice for him. But it actually, for my parents, it was a big factor in their life. It actually allowed them to go to find God. They went to church, and it helped them kind of bring the family together. So in kind of a really tough situation, I'm a dad. I've got 2 kids. I can't even imagine what it'd be like losing a child. And not to put down on it on a Thursday morning, but it actually made our family, and it really did, bring the family closer together. So they moved when he passed. They moved down to Portsmouth from London. My dad was a sales manager for a Japanese electronics company, and I swore I'd never get into sales. So I was like, I saw what it did to my dad. He was stressed. He was, he worked long hours. He was flying all over the world, and we never saw him. And it was, and he actually got made redundant from that job. And it really rocked him, and he sort of got depression and anxiety from it. And I kind of saw what that did to my dad, and I was like, I'm never getting into sales. So I'm going to do the complete opposite. So I went into social care. So I went studied at university, and I loved helping people. I loved understanding what can I do to help people, so I started to study around helping people on low socio-economic backgrounds, so the people that are in a rough part of society. And my job was to help people get connected into courses and training, and that was where I kind of developed my love for training and education. So I'm big on training and learning and educating, and just trying to absorb as much information as possible and then give it to the people that either don't have it or who can't access it. So I was a Red Cross trainer, and I did first aid training, and then my first job after university was working with people to get them jobs. So they were on, the equivalent of Centrelink here, and really trying to break that stigma of, the scrounger, the person because there are a lot of people, good people, who genuinely struggled. They just got a bad rap because that's just what happens. They get lumped in with everybody else. There are people in this world who take advantage of the system, right? So my job was to work with them, go to court, help them, not get evicted, or in some cases get evicted. Because I also did rent recovery, so I was in sales. So over that time in university, probably the biggest thing that happened to me in my life was I contracted something called viral encephalitis, which for those of you who might know is similar to meningitis. Basically it's an inflammation of the brain. Real condensed story short, I was at uni, I was burning the candle at both ends, partying, drink, drugs, all the rest of it, had a great time. Right at the end of my uni study, I started to get headaches, and then I got signed off, went home, my mum came and picked me up. I woke up one morning, confused, numb, thought I was having a stroke, took me to hospital. I was talking gibberish, I thought I was trying to talk, hey mum, I don't feel well, but apparently I was just blah, 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 so my mum and dad were stressing out. I had inflammation in the brain. Very fortunately, whether it be whatever your religious beliefs or whatever your views are, it was an absolute miracle that I survived. So the year that I contracted viral encephalitis, 52% of people that got it that year died. So I was a coin flip, literally a coin flip, 50-50. And then of the 48 people that survived, 48% of the people that survived that year, only about 12% of the people that survived didn't have long-term neurological damage. So I was in the 12% of the 48, and then of that 12%, most people would have long-term, maybe memory loss, fatigue, that kind of thing. I don't have any of that. I literally fully recovered in about 3 months, which the doctors couldn't. And all the way along, and I'm gonna, write a book about it eventually. Is there were just little things that like happened. Like there was a neurologist from South Africa who was like the top encephalitis guy. He was in Portsmouth for a conference that week. Just happened to be there, going, oh, he needs a cyclovir. Get it to him now. Literally just walking past. I was in an A&E thing. So it was just lots of little things that I was incredibly fortunate to pull through. I did pull through and then stop the party lifestyle eventually when I turned 30, and that was when my wife and I moved to Australia. So I've always had a hankering to live and travel the world. When I was 18, I lived in New Zealand. So I was 18. I loved New Zealand. It was like blues, Super 12, rugby. Lived in Auckland. Like it was great. So I'd always had a hankering to travel the world, and particularly like the Southern Hemisphere. I had a real affinity towards this part of the world. My wife's from Durban, South Africa originally, so I think she was keen to go back to the lifestyle of actually seeing the sky. Because I don't know if anyone's been to England, but you get 300 days of clouds if you're lucky. It's pretty depressing. Everyone's got a chip on their shoulder, a lot, get you back up kind of thing. And that was me. Coming to Australia, completely different lifestyle. Everyone's, I just find everyone's a bit more outgoing, a bit more getting outside, and I think it really changed who I was, combined with some other bits and pieces. And then professionally, when I arrived to the Gold Coast, I had a degree. I was wanting to work in the social world, and it was like I had 3 eyes. I was like, no one wanted to hire me. It was just because I was on a visa. It was like I was unhireable. So what was the only job that I could get? What I didn't want to do? Sales. So I ended up going through a training course to learn how to sell. I went and did cold calling for an advertising agency. I turned out that because of my compassionate nature and all the stuff that I'd done in the past, I was actually pretty good at it. I had a natural propensity to building relationships and talking. I didn't like pushy selling. I just wanted to talk to people, understand their issues, and then offer them a solution. And it turned out that, that is sales, right? So from there, I got hired by the company that got me that job, which at the time was called ISR Training. They're an ethical training company. I think I spoke to Rakesh at some point over that time, and a few others that have come through this route, and BNI and whatnot. And then after that, I started to learn and get into the coaching space again, and then I started to have a portfolio of clients that I coached. A couple of years ago, we were pretty fortunate to take the company onto Shark Tank, the entrepreneurial TV show. So we've got great exposure to real business, big business. I say real business, big business, I should say. Completely different to the small business world that we were operating in initially. Kind of blew our minds. Having an exposure to the opportunities and just the knowledge that these guys have, and ultimately at the end of the day they're still people. But my biggest problem or issue with the business world versus the social care world was I didn't think I could help people in the same way of when you help a single mum who's got 5 kids get a benefit claim, reinstated after a year of living off of lentils and breadcrumbs. I didn't think I could get that same job satisfaction in the sales world, but people are people. So even people and business owners, you guys have got just as much stress, if not more, because you've got wages to pay, you've got overheads, you've got broken solar panels, you've got pools that don't work, you've got all these things that happen, and business owners have lots of stress as well. So I found a lot of fulfillment and job satisfaction in working in the business world. But at the end of 5 years working at what is now called Swish, selling with integrity, selling honestly, that was the company that I worked for previously, or ISR Training. I was at the end of that 5 years, I was ready to move. We ended up getting sponsored and gaining permanent residency. I've got a couple of kids, a 4-year-old, it's actually my daughter's birthday today, and my son's 18 months. And we got sponsored, got the residency, and I was like, what's next? And then I was approached by a gentleman by the name of Broden Johnson, who owns the company that I work for. And Broden said, hey, I'm mad busy because of this lady giving referrals, literally, all of the Facebook referrals. I'm too busy, I need a head of sales, but I've looked for 1 year and I can't find anybody who can take sales on and do it in the right way. All I see are money hungry, aggressive salespeople. I don't want that in the business. And I was like, well, I've actually had my notice in today, so that was literally the same day. Universe, God, whatever it is, but I believe it's God. But that was the moment where I was like, this is meant to be. So we had a coffee, a chat, and I've been there about weeks, about 8 weeks now at Yap. But I've known Roden through BNI for the last couple of years. I've seen him stand up and talk about his business. And essentially what we do at Yap, just tying up before I have to finish, is we offer 6 main services. So we offer, and the main one being social media. So and that's social media advertising help. So if you've got adverts that you want to run on the socials, we do that. We also do social media management. That's 2 different things, right? So you've got advertising and then you've got content. Content is very different. So that's if you want somebody to manage your LinkedIn, manage your Instagram, and that's like following people, all of that stuff that takes ages. Literally, it's a full-time job, right? So you can pay one of our team to do that. Then we've got a web developer, a guy who deals in search engine optimization or SEO, and that's somebody who can then look at your website. So even if you've got a current website, we can have a look at it and give you some pointers, do a bit of an audit. You don't have to use us, you can go to your developer and say, hey, these are some changes and things. So if you're not ranking high enough in Google, we're having a look at Anita's at the moment, like why am I not? We're looking at Clinton's as well. So it's just some really simple things that can be changed, like meta headings and titles that can be changed so you can start to feature a little bit higher on Google organically. Alternatively, if you want to do paid services like Google advertising, you can do that as well. We've got a guy in Tasmania, Andy, he's a Cambridge educated guy. That's what he asks us to say. He's like, tell them I'm Cambridge educated. I'm like, all right, Andy, it's fine. Nobody cares. Yeah, he's so he manages that. So if you want to, so you know how you go onto websites and you have the little banners down the side. That's Google advertising, not necessarily just when you feature on Google, because no one really clicks on the top ads because they'll go, oh, people have paid for that. So if you want to feature high on Google, do SEO. If you've got like a shop or something you sell, Google Ads is probably the best thing for that, because when you need something right now, we talk about the triangle of marketing. If you need something right now, what do? You Google it, yeah. Unless and even some people say, oh, I get referral word of mouth work. If I need an electrician at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm not calling a friend, asking them, hey, who did you use? I'm jumping on the Google, I see the diverse guys, I read their reviews, and then I'm calling them at 9 o'clock in the morning to sort out my solar panel problems. So Google is where you need to be if you do want to get that instantaneous work. Social media is about just your general presence. And then we also do graphic design as well, so if you want to help people, we help people get their logos. For that kind of service, that's definitely more for corporate work. So if you do want a logo or something, you're better off going on Canva, doing it yourself, as opposed to paying somebody, a couple of grand to do, because you might as well. That's more for like companies who are a bit more established, who've got doing a big rebrand. If you're just starting out and you want to, Canva's great. It's a free tool. You can literally create your own logos. But yeah, I've got the thumbs up, so that's pretty much me. And then the last thing that we do is what I've been brought in is the sales training side of it, which isn't really. I've got a non-compete in my contract, so I can't really do anything at the moment. But the idea being that I'm going to help our clients also learn how to sell. It's great getting leads, but if you can't close the leads and you don't have any business, well, your business isn't going to work. So Roden's brought me on board to obviously help our clients sell a bit more effectively as well. So, but if you want us to do an audit on your website, it's free. If you want us to do a social media thing, it's free. If you just want to talk to me about anything, it's free. So feel free to reach out. If not, thanks for your time. I brought a bottle of Prosecco.